Morning, guys. Jordan Meyer, Wholesome Family Farms. Today we're going to talk to you about the importance of diversity in a cropping system and a pasture system and farming systems in general. Stay tuned. But before we do that, we got to breed a cow first. The bull we got to get here is called Almanzo. Let's see, can 4 I think it is. There he is, right there I believe, yep. Drop her in the water, about 95 degrees, good to go. Now we gotta get our semen gun here and warm it up and then get a sheath for it and focus drying. Now I gotta go out and find the cow. Oh, looks like Dad scooped out all the feed. Hopefully be able to flip the headlocks and catch her there, and he dumps the TMR out, and then it'll be easier for breeding. I was gonna walk her through there and back to the parlor and do it that way, but this works out too. The work just keeps piling up. Got another one in heat there. Maybe two. Not quite like moving a poly wire and letting them into a new paddock, but I guess that's the conventional way of doing things. This girl right here is in heat. I gotta try to flip the headlocks and catch her. I don't know if I'll find the girl in here laying down or not. 134. Where are you? There you are. She'll go lock up in the headlocks for me. There she goes. And come on. Lock. Can you lock? Waiting for that arm to lock. Playing in the sand. Yeah. Goat playing in the sand too. The goat playing in the sand too. Pet him. That goat literally thinks he's a dog. Follows us around all over the place. Still waiting for our girl to lock there. She's locked. Boy, that one's seen better days. Got her done. Now I'm gonna let them all go. Probably should let him keep napping. Well, Cade woke up, so then we went out that door anyway. Let's see. Now we got to put a cap on the bale. Yeah, I usually just cut some plastic from our ag bags to put over the ends of the bales for the first one so they get sealed off. Oh, I got her capped. All I did is tuck it right behind the net wrap. Seems to work out all right.
Great. My glasses.
And drop her right here. That's good. Oh, let's get her wrapped. Fire this bad boy up. Let's see. All right. forgot to get this tied off. All right, now we got her tied off. All right, try this again. Game undone. Now it should work. Why in the world that thing always shuts off when it's cold like that? One down. We don't have that many left to do today. We did most of them last night. First few bales I like to wrap them manually because otherwise you won't have enough wrap on there and they tear apart. Tear apart if you were on flat land, but out here we're going up and down hills. Yeah, see, in between these spaces between bales, if you're on a pretty good incline like we are here, you know, these last two bales will tend to want to roll off, and then this one will get left behind, and then you get a split right through it, and that's never good, so we always put extra wrap. We ran out of wrap too, so now we're gonna have to replace that. Kind of happy about that, so I've seen it in time while doing it manually. That was always nice. These bales are pretty heavy too since they're wet bales. These are the bales we did last night. Time for new roll. Got our new rolls on. Bales are on the ground now, so now we're gonna flip her to automatic. Life easier. Hard to do this one-handed. And she's taking her away. Pretty slick. Whoops. Guess I shouldn't have taken all the bales off one side. That don't work. It's just pushing the bales, it ain't even pushing the trailer ahead. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about diversity. Whether it be in your fields, where you're growing crops, or in your pastures where you're trying to grow grass for your livestock. Diversity is really important. And the reason why it's very important is because well, let's just use this year for an example. It's super dry. We're in D3 and D4 drought, and there are certain species that just cannot take growing in these conditions. Like for these bales right here, for example, it's pretty much all sorghum Sudan grass. That wasn't the only thing I had in the mix when we seeded it. I have to wave to my buddy. There's his trail camera right there. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, he's got cell cameras. Anyways, this field right here pretty much only grew sorghum Sudan grass, and what I had in the mix when we seeded it this spring, there was hairy vetch, 2 different kinds of clover, there was a kale in there, and then sorghum Sudan. I think that was, oh, there was some annual ryegrass in there as well. Pretty much everything in that mix was a cool season, either legume or a grass, except for this. The sorghum Sudan is a warm season. And on a year like this, you know, the sorghum Sudan, they can still do something when it's hot and dry out. Granted, we still didn't have that great of success even with the sorghum Sudan. Like, there's a little bit of the remnants of the second cut that we just did here. So we got 2 cuttings off of this, but still, we didn't get near the tonnage we should have. Sure, if you wanted to put more cards in one basket, you could have planted a lot more sorghum Sudan grass, but you don't know. We could have had a whole lot better feed too if we would have had a nice moisture-filled summer, but that just wasn't the case. It was hot and dry. And then here's another interesting thing that I observed here just now. I'll drive right over to it. This field that's right here is supposed to be a new seeding field. So for the most part, we just seeded alfalfa into it. First we had oats and barley with it, and then we harvested that off and baled it up. And then what's left is supposed to be alfalfa. Let's get out and take a look. Okay. So yeah, I actually think we did just cut this not too long ago, and lamb's quarter all came back, and then we still got some alfalfa is there. So if we get some moisture now and go into next year, it should be a whole lot better. But one what's really funny is this. How in the world did we get a bunch of radishes in here? Oh, they're all trying to bolt too, so they were planted early, or volunteered early. Turnips and radishes. The story behind this is, let's see, I want to say it was 2020. This field here was a full season grazing mix. So we had turnips and radishes, hairy vetch, sorghum Sudan grass, sunflowers, might have had a little bit of, might have been a little bit of flax in there, a little bit of lentils, some other different things like that. But it's pretty funny, all this stuff went to head out that year in 2020. So this must have been seed that was left over, and then on a year like this, it just went out and did its thing. Pretty interesting. Something must have nipped that guy off earlier on. I find that to be pretty interesting that much of it grew back here. Pretty cool. But yeah, it was this strip right here that had that on it. So it's the reason why diversification is so important. You get into dry spells, or maybe even wet spells for that matter, something is going to grow and something isn't going to grow. So having that diversity out there and having that many different things, you don't have all your eggs in one basket, and you're safe because you're still going to grow something. And if we wouldn't have had the sorghum Sudan in the mix that we just are taking bales off of here right now, we would have been in tough shape too, because virtually nothing grew. We got a bunch of ragweed on the first cut, giant ragweed, which is, you know, it should make some feed. I don't know what it's like when it's bagged. I guess I should know. We feed it to heifers all the time, so it works out. I just know I graze it really well, that's for sure. Because then cattle can just strip all the leaves off and leave just the bottom part of the stalk out in the field. Looks like we got a bunch of common ragweed in there too. Goats would eat it. That's for sure. Seems like no matter where you look, I don't care whose farm it is, there's goat feed on it. Another little patch of turnips and radishes. I don't know why that is, if it's because, I don't know, that's an interesting one, but it seems like it's in every single ravine there is. You know, it may kind of make sense too, because turnips and radishes are very similar to what burdock is. And, you know, they got the long, deep-rooted taproot. And those burdocks, they like to grow in ravines and stuff like that in wet areas too. You know, it seems like you get a little bit more compaction there, and it's trying to alleviate that compaction layer. And I don't know, the conditions were right for that seed to germinate in them spots. The only thing I can figure. Remember the last 2 bales, and I thought I was supposed to have 3 more bales. Did one make it in the woods? Last bale. Then talking about diversity on the grazing setting, you know, everyone always is worried about having the longer rest periods and stuff like that with the grazing. You know, like around here typically, well, if you're a dairy grazer, a lot of them guys are in the 20-some day range, you know, and 30 is about as high as they really like to go. But if you want to build diversity in your system, you can't really do that if you want to get more diversity. You know, a lot of them people end up seeding their pastures down every 4 years because of that. You know, they're only taking the couple species of grasses that they seed out there every year, and they're always eating them in the vegetative state. So if you're not allowing them to go to senescence and reproduce and put out that seed head, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak, because you're going to have to go out there and seed more of it down later on, and you're going to weaken your sward. But if you allow it to have more rest, you allow more diversity to happen out there, and more different seeds will be germinated through the environment that you're putting it in by allowing it to have that much longer rest period. But then the thing of it is, you know, people don't like to have the long rest period because then they're missing out on their optimum time to be grazing that, and that's what most people are worried about. But if you've got your diversity in there, you have different species of plants that are gonna, what's the word I'm looking for? You have different species of plants in there that are gonna be showing their highest plane of nutrition at different times of the year. So, you know, like for example, for me here, the first thing to go to seed head for me is my orchard grass. And then after that, you know, I'll get some clover to start blooming and things like that. And then my Timothy grass, for some odd reason in my area, it doesn't seed out until closer to the end of June, which is kind of interesting. So those 2 plants in particular are a whole month apart in their different stages of highest planes of nutrition, if that makes sense. So if you go out there and you graze everything at, you know, let's say the 30th of May, let's say you go over this paddock on the 30th of May, and you return to that same paddock 30 days later, you know, the Timothy is going to be at a totally different stage too, and that's really not going to be able to seed out because you already nipped it off the first time when it was really young on May 30th, and then when you came back, it wasn't even close to seeding out then again either, and you grazed it and it probably wasn't even rested long enough to even begin with either. So then you really just set that species of grass back, and you won't be seeing it again as often in your sward of grass. So that's where it's important to have a little bit longer rest periods, because you want to allow the different species of grasses and legumes and forbs to all express themselves and be able to, you know, get to the later maturity stage for grazing and potentially toss out a seed head so you can have more of that grass later on in the years to follow. And that's just touching on the perennial side of things. Well, we haven't even talked about the biennial side of things. Oh, that's a heavy load. You know, like if you talk about crown vetch or hairy vetch or any of them species of plants, you know, they don't seed themselves out until the end of July. So if you're not doing different adaptive grazing and potentially skipping some paddocks and leaving them or, you know, simply just having longer rest periods, you know, that 80 to 90 to 100 days or whatever. There's no specific number, just, you know, changing it up and doing something different. Like I said, you know, skipping some paddocks. So some paddocks will have different species in them too, and changing it on the different spots from year to year, that's where it's really, really important. So like the hairy vetch, back to that likes to seed itself out, you know, towards the end of July. Well, if you went there and kept on grazing and grazing and grazing, that's just going to work itself right out of your sorghum and it won't even be there. So the more we keep on changing it up and being adaptive and allowing our grasses to rest, the more diversity that's going to be popping in there, and the more higher plane of nutrition our livestock are going to be able to go out there and select and graze for when we're out there grazing. So letting a lot of these stands go what you would call mature and weight or rank, you're really not doing that if you're focusing on all the other species that you want to have in your mix. The nutrition will be there, you know, we're going to eat the best and we're going to trample the rest. I guess that's what I'm focusing on. There are tons of different ways of doing this, but not all one way is the right answer either. Changing it up, doing things different, throwing curveballs back at nature sometimes is the thing to do. But working along with her is key though. What she wants to grow will grow, but a lot of it has to do with what management style we're doing there. So if we're messing up on our management, it's going to throw weeds out there versus something more beneficial, like we were just talking about all those other species. So with that, guys, that's the diversity talk. Thanks for watching. We're just about home here now. We're going to finish wrapping these bales up, and then we got to probably start milking here. And then we got to go over to the crazy farm too and take care of the heifers over there and feed calves and all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, I sure appreciate everybody watching. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And hope to see you in the next one. Take care, guys. God bless.